up to speed, up to speed, up to speed.
Live from the apocalypse, the new candidates for hip hop governor. We are talking about state of the game. We're gonna run as a ticket, unopposed. This is Dano, the founder of Free Music Empire, the nicest egomaniac that you'll ever meet, and my co-host is D'Angelo Russell his favorite Laker? Maybe. You'll have to ask him. This is K Diggy. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
What are the Lakers like when LeBron's not on the floor? How would you describe?
I mean, almost like what they're like with Kobe wasn't on the floor. So
yeah, it's like a public bus when the bus driver gets out for a smoke and just leaves, and everybody's just sitting in the bus. That's how they feel when LeBron's not on the floor.
Yeah, they know it's their time. It's their time to act up.
It's a tribute to LeBron though to be in his 19th season with everybody being like, "I hope you save us this game because we're fucked."
But he can still do it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
he can still do it. He's still flying around, dunking, blocking shots, chasing people down. Insane.
Yeah.
So we have a guest here, and we reach out. We want to communicate with our audience, the people who are subscribers to the Patreon, in a safe way where they won't stab us. You know what I mean? And so Zoom is a great outlet for that. And I'm so excited to talk to our guest who does these really cool reviews, Twitter reviews. They're really cool, Kay, because they're really blunt and straightforward about why the album works or doesn't work. And it's not flowery prose, trying to get the imagery off. It's like from the corner, and that's kind of where we started Free Music Empire, trying to write this shit. And so, yeah, and not just that, this is somebody from Florida, and all people from Florida should be studied by scientists. So, thank you, Fick, for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I made my way down to Florida, originally from New York, but been down here more than half my life. It's I guess I am a Florida man.
Florida man. But no, it is Fick. When Fick and I listen to a lot of ST Knack, he is my Knack godfather in this thing, along with Levi and the mother. But when we listen to so much Knack, we got to change it up with some non-rap stuff to change the flavors up. So I wanted to do an all non-rap breakdown. But the first question to you, Fick, you've been observing. Fick is in the game. Fick is buying merch, right? He's got the Alchemist hat on right now. Fick is someone who is heavily involved in this thing and sees all this stuff happening. If I was to ask you for 5 nominees for MVP of the year in music, who would you nominate?
That's tough. I go Knack. I go Woods. I go Dove. I go Dove of Angel.
Yep.
And that 5th spot, I'm going to go Milk because I can't put down the 2 records that he's put out this year, Horseradish and The Fish That Saved Portland.
Yep.
Those would be also the 5 most I listen to.
Yeah. And
just on my...
the other thing that adds to Milk's case, right? Because it's not just about releasing 5-10 albums in a year. It's about the guest features he demolishes.
And he dropped a hell of a lot of singles too that were just, with I think they're the home team, like all of his boys from Portland and all that stuff, like and a couple singles with Blue here and there, and countless features. I think he had the best verse on that Blood Blitzing album that he was on this year. There's
Yeah.
some heavy hits on that project too. Like he just demolishing.
Yep. No, I like that. That's good. That's a good place to start. I am ramping up my thought process on who would be in the mix. So to get your understanding of it.
So people got Mike in there. I could see that. 2 solid rap albums and that production album he put out too. I could see Mike in that conversation too.
Mike. Yep. Good times. No, but this is I mean, how have you felt about the year in music and where it has been this year?
I think it's one of I thought last year was stellar, and I think that this year is somehow possibly topped it. And there's still at least 2 more releases that I am so high on. One coming out Friday, ASAP, and then the one after that next week with Blockhead. So like I think that this year might even be better than last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case, man. I mean, there's albums that I know are good that I still don't get to.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
ones I want to go back to and stuff, and just no time.
Can I give you an example? Like Mick Jenkins dropped an album called The Patience. And it's so good. It's so lyrical. But there's so much good lyrical shit. I don't get back to it enough. I just never seem to get back to it enough. And what I always think to myself is, man, if this was even like a medium year, that would be a top 10, 15 album.
Oh, for sure.
But it's nowhere in the mix for me at this point. It's just because it's just so much, right? How are you going to compete with maps? How are you going to compete with all this, all this stuff out there? Yeah. How has it felt to you, Kay, versus last year?
I mean, it's been overwhelming, in a sense. Like you said, there's just so many good projects out that you hear about, and you say, okay, like you make a mental checklist, like, okay, I'm gonna get to that. And then you just never end up getting to it. Or there's like a delay of 3 or 4 weeks before you actually get around to it. I mean, there's just so much good stuff, but like too much of a good thing can be bad,
Yeah. And to me, what separates an album of the year in criteria, and this is just weirdo fan criteria, right? From my perspective. Because with me and Fick are the type, when an important album drops, we're gonna listen to it, right? Bang.
Right.
First listen. Yeah, I first listen to every fucking thing, I second listen a lot of things. But the true test is when I don't have anything planned to listen to, I need to listen to this, I need to listen to that. When I'm just kicking it and I need to throw some shit on. What do I come back to? What is in my pocket?
Right.
What's the first thing out of the bullpen?
Right.
And I start to take notice of like, oh man, I keep coming back to that one, huh? Like crazy. I can't reveal what my favorite album of this year has been yet, but I can tell you, I realized it was because I was like, what is going to be my favorite album of this year that I'm going to write about and list? And I pressed all-time listens on Bandcamp, and this album was number 1. It came out this year. It was over albums that were years old. I was just like, holy shit, I guess it's this one.
City Girls.
City Girls. Yeah, it's good stuff. Shout out to City Girls.
But I'll make one last point on what you were saying. So sometimes when I feel overwhelmed by like how much new stuff is out, like today was one of those days, like I wanted a certain vibe and I had the vibe in my head, and I know classic albums that provide that vibe to me. I wanted straight, grimy, in your face, bash you with a fucking type, with a bat type of shit, and I'm like, well, I know one album that will always make me do that, and that's The Shining. And that's what I wanted to hear today. So like, I felt too overwhelmed to like search for something like that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go into my old bag of tricks. Well, an album I haven't heard in 15 years that I know provides that. And that's all I did was,
Yeah.
Like I'm just, and it's a good thing when there's so much good music, but it's also a bad thing because it's like, yo, chill the fuck out. Let me catch up a little bit. Like, I feel like I need to be on top of everything. And I'll see in, one of my discords that some people are just listening to an album now that came out in May. And I'm like, yo, I can never. Like, I need to listen to it then. But
Right.
some stuff I haven't gone back to that I really, really want to. I just don't have the time. Like Video Dave, Stick Figure, like those two albums blew me away. I've gone back to them each maybe once or twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's real tough. And yeah, but what I would say is people should definitely take advantage of their play queues and playlists, right? Because sometimes what I'll do, let's say I'm listening to a new grimy rap New York album, right? And I'm like, this reminds me of The Shining. And while I'll start throwing The Shining in 1-to-1 after that album.
Yeah.
Into my play queue, like boom, one from each, back to back, and see how they compare and contrast against each other. And that's been fun to do.
You do that with a first listen?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's interesting.
I really enjoy and especially sometimes it'll go weird and deep of like 2 or 3 new releases 1-to-1, and then an old album in that 1-to-1 mix as well. So I'm listening to these, same 4 albums all day on the first listen. Or until one of them becomes so good, I just have to go straight to that and listen to all that. Right? It's like the testing period. You're like, all right.
You have those monster days where like 2, 3 fire projects drop.
That's
Like, and
crazy.
you're like, God damn it, where am I finding the time?
It's happening more and more.
Like I'll put it when on the 29th of September, we had Arm & Hammer, we had Def C Messiah, and then we had Hemlock and Heights. 3 albums that I have ran into the ground.
Yep.
And it's like, how did I find time to listen to all 3 of them in one day? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa.
Did I tell you that I put the fall collection on in the vehicle, and my son from the back seat said, "Is this Sage Francis?" I was like, damn, like I hadn't even thought about that shit.
I can hear it now that you said that. Like,
and my wife's like, oh yeah, definitely some Sage Francis in here. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. But yeah, that's just dope. There's a lot of different ways that you have to tease it, but the thing is, I always feel like I'm not listening to his stuff enough. The thing is, yes, I listen to everything once, but you have to develop a relationship with that album to really cherish it.
For sure.
And if you don't, you miss out on that relationship, So what got me close to Ritual, which is one of my favorite albums of the year,
so good,
is that Mike came out the same time. Killer Mike's album.
I haven't listened to it.
I listened to both that day, and I was kind of going 1-to-1. I was going from Killer Mike song to Stick Figure song. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think Stick's got him. I think this is a better version of what Mike's trying to do. And that was when I was like, I disconnected from the Killer Mike album emotionally. and Ritual's been my jam. Like it's
sure.
Yeah. So it's been a weird thing like that where it's just like crazy competitive, Hunger Games type shit,
Oh, for sure.
Like
you feel bad leaving certain albums not in your top 3 or 4, and you're like, damn, like how did I? Because everybody feels something differently. Like my top 3 albums won't look like most people's because it's probably going to be the 3 albums I've played the most this year.
Yep.
It's not what most people would have played. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about music, man. Like,
yeah. I hear you. This is so. Hey, we've got 3 albums we're talking about today.
Can't wait.
And one of them I will ride for to the death. One of them makes me smile every time. and the other is the most notably inconsequential album of the year, maybe. Is so
Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
by all this stuff. So this is we have Take It Easy by Collie Buddz, Vagabond, Sorry I Haven't Called, and Black Bayou by Robert Finley. Where do you want to start, Kay?
Let's start with Black Bayou.
Good deal. Good deal. Yep. I let Kay pick first, Vic, because he has done the most speed dating of any of us.
No, that's listen. I'm cool. I'm
It
the
helps
guest
me.
here.
It helps me with the music, listening to music as well. You know.
So
I'm
which
just
one-
following. I'm following suit. You know. You guys tell me what to talk about, and I'm talking about it.
So which did you pick, Kay? What did you say?
Oh, the Black Bayou.
Oh, Black Bayou. So I first heard, I think, Sharecropper's Son, which is the last year's album. I really love that album. And to be clear, I'm a very old person, and blues music is what I started with. That was my building block, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad played the Doors version of Backdoor Man and said it was a blues cover, and I said to my dad, well, can we hear the original? And we played the original, and I was like, that's my shit. The Doors are fine, but that's my shit, and the blues were really what taught me everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so blues music is one of the things I've missed the most. It's not that it doesn't happen anymore. It's that when it happens, it's done by like white guys in leather jackets who are like professors of blues, and it's fucking awful. There's no heart in it. There's no soul in it. It's
flavor.
Yeah, it's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is that shit. This is Black Bayou. Is to me, this is the blues, but with some really killer electric guitar and interesting production. What did you think of this, Kay? How'd you feel about it?
I was conflicted because on one level, like I did like the like I really enjoyed the music and the lyrics, but on the same time, it was a little bit too polished for me.
Interesting.
Like when I think of like blues, I think of, and maybe it's the recording. Like the recording was just too clean for me.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of like the nuances with the blues, like I didn't really feel it as much as I would have liked to.
Interesting. No, it's and I think there's definitely a period of blues, like I don't know, thinking of Muddy Waters' Hard Again album, where he was like later in life and he's like, oh, y'all are making electric rock and roll versions of my shit. Well, let me just fucking get the same technology and make clean ass badass blues, and it's awesome. But there's definitely a history of clean blues working, but I can understand how the texture, it's either going to work for you or not work for you.
Right.
How about the title cut? Or sorry, no, the last song, Alligator Bait. Was that dirty enough for you? I mean, that was a different tone.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta recall the lyrics, but it was a little bit risque. Like it was blues with like a modern like hookup culture lens to it.
Well, yeah, it was all about the dude using his grandson as alligator bait. You remember this? 6 minutes long, and it is a very kind of the sounds. It almost reminded me of like Creedence Clearwater shit, where you could like feel the bayou-ness of it, the bogginess of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I may have to give it another listen, and that kind of goes back to the discussion that we were having about how we like digest music.
Yeah.
But Yeah, on the first two listens, it didn't really like. I thought it was good, but I don't know if I would go back to it. It was like a fun experience. It was like, okay, this is cool. Like, what's next?
Yeah, yeah. Vic, how did it hit you?
It was my favorite of the three
Mm-hmm.
that we listened to. Um, a couple of things I didn't know that like he had only been making music for 5 years. You know, I look at the cover, you think that this guy's been putting out albums since like, 1905. But like, he just started putting out records only a few years ago. He went blind as an adult. Um, but I thought, like, I could see where you're saying it was polished. I feel like if I had this on a cassette and I was listening to it on like an old cassette player,
Mhm.
the pops and like the creaking sounds would add to it. It's kind of like, I guess I'll reference the movie Black Snake Moan, blues movie. Watched a version of that on a bootleg DVD once, and I was like, yo, this is so good. Then I watched the actual version and I was like, yo, this is too clean. So like I get what you're saying. There was parts of the album where I was just like, okay, you're just polished. You just, you're going for you're going for gusto here. You want to let people know you can do this. But then there was other moments of the album where I was like, yes, this is it right here. Give me all of that. And it was the one song that was just so weird that really stuck out to me was You Got It all and I Need It. The one where he's doing the other voice in such a high pitched way. And I was just like, what the hell is going on here?
And that's what he's like bragging about how big his dick is and stuff. I'm like,
and I was like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But and the first song, those were the two that like really struck me the most on this album. But I listened to it like
You Got
two or
It.
three
Isn't that
times.
the one where he's like, where he's basically saying like, yeah, you're looking so good, you can't blame me for trying. It's
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. Yeah. Okay.
Basically, you got it, I need it.
Right.
But like it was a dope album. I don't normally, so like when you sent me the list of albums, I kind of like folk music, so I was like, I'm gonna stay away from that. And I don't really like the R&B-ish type music from Brent Faiyaz, so I was like, I'm gonna stay away from that one. I knew nothing about Vagabon or Robert Finley going into this, and I was like, Collie Buddz will be fun. Like that'll just be fun to do that one. But I was very blown away by the Robert Finley record. Like I'll definitely go back to at least 4 or 5 songs from that album and like listen to them and stuff.
Yeah, I think what I was impressed by most, Vic, is because like when I talked about soulless blues, right? It's like when they're writing songs that are kind of plug and play blues songs.
Yeah, cookie cutter.
I'm down by a river, whatever, you're just like doing what you think a blues song is, it's a hard night, and what I found was each and every song on Black Bayou is so goddamn specific. It's so specifically, uniquely him, to the point where it was distracting at times. Like there was a song where he's just like, she was secretly giving lap dances to friends of mine, sneaking around. And I was like, that's not what sneaking around means where I'm from. It's a problem, but it's not, sneaking around per se. That's like a different situation. So it was jarring at times. His perspective was jarring for me, and took me out of moments, but that was the best part of the album, was you never knew what the fuck he was going to talk about.
Oh yeah.
The perspective was so alive and so unique that you were just like, fuck, what is this next one going to be about?
I really got down with it. Like, and I was just like, oh, okay. Now I got to go do a deep dive on blues, because I've listened to a few blues albums that, were considered classics. Yeah. But what I thought he kind of sounded like to me was Albert King. A little bit.
I dig it. It's a good comp.
I've listened to like 2 or 3 Albert King albums, and I remember listening. I was just like, "Oh, this kind of sounds familiar," but also he's a 70-something-year-old man in 2023 making blues music. You know, he's not a 70-year-old man in the 60s and 70s making blues music. So it's going to be a completely different. I can't think of the word. Different things that he's going to want to talk about, or different things that are more relevant to his life than they were back then to people 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah, the Bandcamp description, he says a song should tell a good story, and I think that's definitely where he's coming from with it. And yeah, there's real interesting parts on this K that talk about, you know, being nomadic and being lonely, and you know, living out of your trunk, and you know, you get the idea that if he wasn't in music, he would still be that way. Like he's not the person that music made him that way.
Right.
And so this is a rambling man, you know, rambling, and he's this is out there, to give you that perspective. So
Yeah. I mean, it was good. As I said, it was just too like, I think with the blues, like what makes the blues interesting is when it doesn't sound perfect. You know, like you're saying, when you can hear the scratches, when, you know, maybe the levels are a little bit like, not everything's at the same level in terms of the music, like where there's certain where certain parts of the song are accented more than others, like that. The idiosyncrasies is what makes it interesting to me. And in terms of the recording, I didn't hear any of that in the music.
Well,
So,
and his voice is full of textures and idiosyncrasies,
yeah,
weirdness. So I can understand where you're like, you're like the voice, there's so much there, the stories are so much there,
right.
but then the actual sonics are very digital, very like cleaned up, and like so
that rawness is gone. Like when you're singing the blues, there's got to be that rawness. Like,
but like when you said you didn't know where his subject matter was going to go on each song, I never knew where his voice was going to go on the next line. Was I going to get the wail? Was I going to get the croon? Was I, you know what I mean? And I was just so invested in every single move he was making on that album. Like I sat there and it's the one I listened to the most. I listened to it like I probably 3 times, I think. Like I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. No, it's and I think part of it, Fick, is that you're just not going to get anything like it. You know what I mean? This is a completely unique story. This is like, as you said, a 70-year-old blind man bragging about his penis and pursuing women and going through childhood memories, and like, this is the kind of shit that like you have to take notice on, because you're not gonna always get it. It's not always gonna be there.
Right.
You know, like me and my wife have had these. This is one of the things that really got us together, was we both were the type of people that would go up to the oldest person in the room and sit and hang out and hear their stories and talk to them and ask them questions, and like valued their time, because we're like, you can give me game or stories or shit that I can never hear from anywhere else, you know? Yeah.
Life lessons.
Yeah. So like,
with age.
this is that kind of shit where this guy is so unique, and he's not going to be around forever, and his life is so interesting. That alligator bait song, I challenge you to find me another song like that this year. Just insane.
They don't make songs like that anymore.
No, man. So I fucked with that, and I was like thinking about all these weird stories that, like, you know, I had a friend, okay, who broke up with his girlfriend, and because she was like, I cheated on you, and he was like, why? And she was like, we were on a boat. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
we were on a boat.
You're on a boat. I agree. Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that story, like, man, Robert Finley make a song about that in a second.
But he would be the guy who was on the boat. he wouldn't be the guy.
We're on a boat, baby. Like
Him and his big penis are taking your girl from you.
we're on a boat. Baby. Yeah, yeah. I honestly, I could see him writing the song from either direction.
Yeah, both songs on the album, one from each perspective.
Oh
For
my
sure.
God. You know who Irma Thomas's greatest hits are like that? If you get like Irma Thomas's greatest hits, she's like a really important blues singer, and her greatest hits go from like he pulled my guts out when he cheated on me to like sorry I cheated on you, and like there's like back and forth. It's great. Yeah, all the perspectives. So yeah,
It definitely
Both
made me
sides
want
of
to
the coin.
check out more blues music. So I definitely have added a few Muddy Waters things to my queue because of that album. Long overdue on it too, because I always liked blues music when I heard it.
yeah.
Because when there's emotion, I'm in. Like I will always be in when you put emotion onto a track and mean it.
Yep. Howlin' Wolf has always been my deal. And yeah, just really good stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of great work out there, but yeah, there's it's been a little too polished for a while. Blues music has. This is actually a lot less than a lot of the ones I've heard in terms of that overwhelming polish. But the point is real, Kay. Your point that like everyone needs to be more thoughtful about how polished and how clean your sound is. Is it supposed to be that clean? Not can you get it that clean? Is it meant to be that clean?
Yeah.
Is the song meant to be mixed, mastered like that? Or is it meant to be done a different way? That's one of the reasons what some of your favorite albums of the year are that way because of how they were mixed and mastered. Right? Like Sleeping Dogs to me is a great example. See Money Burns, the mixing mastering on that is so unique. It's so beautiful. There's no album that sounds like it.
Right.
Yeah. Its spot on my list has been guaranteed because who else is doing shit like that?
Well, it's like when you look at a record and it says mix and mastered at the Greenhouse, you already know you're in for sonically some of the greatest shit you will ever hear in your life.
Right. 100%. Yeah, it's so those guys understand different textures, different ways to make things sound. So, but everybody should be mindful of that and trying to do their best work in those spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we do Collie Buddz? Should we go into that?
Yeah, one next.
Take it easy. I don't know. I'm into it. Collie Buddz. I listened to the album before I knew that this was a white guy from Louisiana. I did not go in knowing that. I want to lead the discussion by saying I am in no position to judge this guy for being a white guy who does reggae. I am the whitest person you'll ever meet, and I am just not qualified for that. If other people want to be mad at Collie Buddz for being white and doing reggae, feel free, make the case. I'll read your blog, but I won't write it.
It's a little bit deeper than that. He's not white as we are white. So his mother's from Antigua and his father was from Bermuda. He just happened to be born in New Orleans.
So this is again why like I said, I have no skin in this game. I'm gonna leave that. Yeah.
So when Come Around came out, in like 06, finally the earth's come around. Everyone was like, what did the one white guy in Jamaica make like a group and like decide to make reggae music? Like we knew he was white, me and my friends, but I never knew like that. Then today, like I had to look it up, but like, yeah, he moved back to Bermuda or something when he was a kid. So like he was just born in Louisiana.
Okay.
But it's still funny when you think of it like, oh, he's a white guy from Louisiana that makes reggae music. Like, And that's all I could picture in my head while I was listening to the album.
So, and he's not, by the way, like beyond that, right? He's an interesting dude. Like, if you go, I don't know if you've gone as nerdy as I've gone, Kay, but go ahead and go on YouTube and find the video for this, for the title track. You need to watch this video. To me, this video is everything you need to know about Collie Buddz. It's everything.
Yeah, I have no idea what the guy looks like.
Oh, you need to see it. It's everything you need to know.
He kind of looks like a skinny Scott Storch.
Right, right. So this video, Kay, is just him in a white shirt. He's not dressed in an intimidating way where you're like, ooh, those clothes are expensive. These just normal clothes, glasses. He gets in like a banged up truck with a really attractive lady. They go to a top of a mountain and they smoke weed together. And that's the video. That's the whole video. And it's just like, that's how this dude is. Like, he's just vibing, you know? He's vibing.
It's literally perfect.
I've heard of Blue Eye Soul, but Blue Eye Jamaican, Blue Eye Reggae is, I mean, it's the new thing, you know?
Snow is around, so it's happening. It's happening, you know?
Well, it's kind of like, it's a little bit better than, I guess, Modest Yahoo.
Well, yeah, so like, to be fair, and that's why I said I didn't want to judge this dude, because I got the feeling like this guy's, he's not like doing a voice when he's doing the reggae. Like, he's very adept with this to the point where you're like, some people grow up in those neighborhoods, dog. Like, some people, you know, you grow up your whole life in these neighborhoods and you're immersed in that, you know? So, and then people come to you and say, you know, how dare you do this? And you're like, what do you mean? Like, I was with my people, you know? So I understand that as a part of the equation. But yeah, I got no hate in my heart for Collie Buddz. It's a weird album. It's a weird album. How do you feel about it, Kay? Is it your favorite?
No, it's not my favorite. It reminded me a lot like if Post Malone did a reggae album. But you know what? I think it's the best way to think of it. It's not like, I had to think of it. Sometimes we have to listen to music like outside of our own taste and just think about, okay, what were they going for? Like, what was the purpose of them making this record? Do I think that they hit what they were aiming for? And I think he hit what he was aiming for. So I give him credit. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I can see what they were trying to do, and I think that they accomplished it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Vic, you close your eyes and picture a water park in South Florida. This album could play front to back.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's one of those albums where, like you said, he what was he going for? Take it easy. And that's what it is. You put it on and it's background music to me.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not anything that I want to, I'm not going to go out of my way again to listen to it. But if it's on in the background, I'm not going to be like, you know,
turn that shit
bullshit on the radio, son. You know what I mean? I'm going to let it play because I'm like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I can get down to this, but it's not anything where I'm like, I fucking need that. It just sounds like cut and dry ska, reggae, soca, whatever you want to call that kind of genre. But there's other artists who make that music who I would gravitate way more to before I would to Collie Buddz.
And yeah, and I think like there's the biggest problem with this album, Kay, is the sameness of it from one song to the next.
Sure.
Yeah. We talked about this, Kay, with like my meanest declaration of the year. That like with that Janelle Monáe album.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Welcome to the Pleasure Dome or whatever that was?
Right. Pleasure something. Age of Pleasure, I think.
Yeah. So
Welcome to the pleasure dome.
the Pleasure Dome. I basically said if you listen to the first 2 songs on that album, you don't need the rest. You don't. The rest of it is that's a PS, right?
That's this
And so this album is the same way.
sure.
If you listen to the title track and then you listen to High Grade, that's what this album's about in 2 songs. And that's boom, done.
I would pick a different 2 songs though.
Okay. Pick a different 2 songs. What do you got?
I would go No Bushweed and Twisted Agenda, even though that is the most mailed in verse I have ever heard from Be Real in my life.
Yeah, that was bad, dude.
But
Twisted
I'm about
Agenda,
that
I'll
life.
give it to you.
No bushweed. Like, I don't want to smoke that. When I don't smoke bushweed, I'm taking it easy. And then the Twisted Agenda with Bounty Killer, because then it's like, look, here's what I'm doing, and I'm doing it. I got Bounty Killer here with me. He's doing it with me. And then it's just like, I feel like the record picked up there a little bit.
And so,
that's why.
Yeah, it did. And Collision is pretty good. You get some collaborations. Collie Buddz kind of wakes up when there's collaborations a little bit.
I feel like if every song had a feature on it, I would have been more vested. And that's nothing against Collie Buddz, but he just didn't hold my interest in each of his solo songs.
Sometimes you can get so casual and so chill that you put yourself to sleep, and I think he's guilty of that here, that sameness. When Twisted Agenda came on, Bounty Killer's voice is so goddamn exciting that I was like, fuck, I need to cut this album with another better album.
That was my favorite song on the album, Twisted Agenda, because the energy that Bounty Killer brought was nothing like anything else on the album.
Crazy. Absolutely. And honestly, it needed it. If this was an album that Bounty Killer and Collie Buddz did together, I'd love it. Right?
For sure.
With him as the fire starter and Collie Buddz as the smoothness,
Good juxtaposition is always fucking nice.
Yes. I mean, but what I ended up doing, Kay, was like listening to this song for song with Bounty Killer's No Argument album from '96. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what it reminds me of? It kind of reminded me of. You ever seen Arthur, the PBS show Arthur?
Yeah.
You know, like the theme song, which I love, which is classic. It reminded me a lot of that theme song for Arthur.
For sure. The flutes. Yeah, I'm hearing it all now, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say let's say if Bruno Mars wants to do a reggae album, Collie Buddz could do that for him, right? He could be in the think tank, helping him get that done. This is like brutally acceptable music.
Yeah.
I think Bruno Mars can make a better reggae album by himself than Collie Buddz. I'll say that. Bruno Mars is one of the most talented individuals on the planet.
Yep.
I don't like any of his music. Don't get me wrong. I'm really like some songs here and there, but he is the most talented person on the face of the earth.
Talented guy.
Yeah. Because I kept going back because we reviewed, was it last year? We reviewed Coffee's album. And I don't know how old Collie Buddz is, but like I think one of the criticisms I had with Coffee is like I wish you would have a little bit more fun and loosen up a little bit. And this felt like the
opposite.
The opposite of that.
That's awesome.
So like as I said, kudos to both of them, Coffee and Collie Buddz. Like,
yeah, there was a point, maybe the weakest point. I don't know if it was Mr. Wicked on track 8, but he was like, "You don't want me as an enemy," and I was like, "Hey,
maybe I do."
Out? Have we? Does this? How do I know this? What is, where's the evidence of this throughout this? What is happening here? Weird.
Oh.
But yeah, it's you can't like, it's the same way. You can't be killing people for 11 tracks on your album and then on the 12th one be like, girl, I'm sensitive. I need your shoulder to cry on. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's, you haven't built that world. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The same thing with this, where he was like, take it easy, relax, love, happiness, me and the girl smoking weed. And then he's like, you don't want to mess with me. I'm like, what? What is this? Who are you now? But yeah, Collie Buddz, it was impressively inconsequential. And that's why I was happy that we were focusing on it, right? Because like sometimes, if you just analyze the best of the best albums and that's all you hear, you end up getting snobby about the best albums.
Right.
Yeah, you end up being like, this isn't that good, I think New York City tap water is overrated. Come on, relax. But you have to understand, most of the music that came out in 2023 was like Collie Buddz, Take It Easy, inconsequential, right? It's a giant river that flows downstream, and there's good shit in it that we pick out.
Right.
But the river is full of this kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and it's consequential on purpose. Like, it's designed to be like that. It's designed to be able to fit into a playlist. And as I said, like, if this song came on in a playlist, you're not like skipping the song.
No.
You'll just let the song ride. Like, any song on this album, you could just let it ride. Like, I don't think this was horrible music.
No.
It was just like you said, it was just inconsequential. There were no stakes to it. It was just okay.
When like you're sometimes you're in a place, you're talking to somebody, and then you stop the conversation, you stop when you're like, what the fuck is this song?
Yeah. Yes.
Who is this? What the fuck
All
is
the time.
this? Like, you would never do that with Collie Buddz. You would keep having that conversation, you would keep sipping that drink, and you would be kicking it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. And I wasn't like everybody said, it's not offensive, it's not bad. It has no teeth, right? No teeth whatsoever. And there's some people who would be like, well, reggae has a sameness to it. No. Listen, go ahead and find Bounty Killer's No Argument from 96. It's bananas, 12 songs. I think that's the same amount as the Collie Buddz. And everything is totally different. Every song is totally different. Every moment is exciting.
Yeah.
Because that's what great artists do.
What's perfect about this song, I could see this being, you could see his music being in the background of a commercial.
Oh yeah.
And that's what it's designed. It's designed to be accessible. Like, I would say, like, ironically, like, I think Coffee's better, but I would say this album is more accessible to most people than Coffee's album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, to the people they want it to be accessible to, you know what I mean? If you catch my drift.
Yeah, and I think there's a possibility. I don't know enough about Collie Buddz, but there's a definite possibility that this is just not an album artist.
Right.
Doesn't seem like it.
The singles artist, right? Like,
yep.
If you heard Brighter Days, you'd be like, that's cool, right on. Like, Take It Easy. You could pull any of these, Money Up, any of these songs individually, you'd be like, all right, this is good times. There's an aura here, there's an ambiance here. But when you put it together, you're like, this is the same fucking ambiance. Lyrically, nothing's challenging. This relaxing music was cool until we're 6 tracks deep. And now I'm like, what the fuck? Can I get something else?
Yeah.
So it's weird, but it makes sense. And he's the guy that worked with Shaggy, that plays in those spaces, safe spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I think with the one that I was gonna fight for, that I love the most, is the Vagabond. Sorry I haven't called. And I just adore this album. And was it's weird. I've had a relationship with it. Sorry I haven't called. I knew it was interesting the first time I heard it, but I didn't love it. And I've listened to it like a lot to get to the point where I am, that I'm all in, but I wasn't all in original.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure what genre of music this existed within.
Right.
What am I listening to? Is this R&B? Is this rock? What is this? Is this dance? What happened here? Once I let go of that, I was like, this is such a fucking cool experience. So
Yeah.
Fick, how did you feel about Sorry I Haven't Called?
So I was reading a little bit on the album before, while I was listening to it. She wrote it after her friend and collaborator Eric Littman passed away. She tried to make some somber ballads, but gravitated away from that once the pen hit the papers. It's super catchy and fun. But if you actually listen to it, it's riddled with so much pain and growth. Picking a genre for it it's impossible. It seamlessly blends through so many of them. I have a comparison in my mind, and it seems so cliche to the point I don't want to say it, but it seemed like Billie Eilish could have made this album.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With the way her voice, the way Vagabond's voice is on most of the tracks, Billie's hush whisper would have fit perfectly on a lot of those songs.
Yeah.
And I just, listening to it the second time, I was just like, yeah, I could definitely see Billie on this record. But I enjoyed it more than I thought I was. I had no idea what it was going to be when I was going into it. Looking at the cover, it doesn't give you any idea of what you're about to listen to.
Right.
And I thought it was really dope. The first song where she just whispers, "Can I talk my shit?" and then just goes right into talking fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you win me over right there. Like, but I really also liked It's a Crisis. I thought that song was awesome. And the last song, I thought she ended super strong with Anti-Fuck.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, this is a complete fucking album. Like,
Right.
this didn't feel like the other two albums where they were just, like, I liked the Robert Finley one the most, but it didn't feel like a real album to me. It felt more of a collection of songs from a guy. And this felt like a whole cohesive album where every song meant it needed to be there. There was a point to each song being on that album. And at the end of the album is where you realize, boom, this was more about growth than somebody just being pissed off about a bunch of things that had happened to them and wanting to whine about it on record.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point to make, Vic. I think making an album, making albums successfully is chess, not checkers, right? And so it's sequencing is a real thing. It's a real concern. All these things are real concerns. So, like, this was so thoughtfully executed that I can see how it calls the other two into question. Like, it by comparison, to be like, these are not as thoughtfully comprised or oriented. So, is that fair, Kay? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it did spawn a lot of genres. It reminded me, what we talked about this album. This is the thing about having like an ear with so many good albums.
Yep.
What was the R&B album we talked about at the beginning of the year? We both loved.
What I've been saying in the Discord chat, the Red Club is selling on this. This is the other side of the Kalila Raven album.
Yes. Yes.
You okay?
Exactly.
So you were zoning in, like, okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That is the dark side, and this is the light side. It's like a
Yes.
Star Wars thing, you know. And I think because there's
I'm glad that we were on the same page with that, because that was immediately what I went to. That album was immediately what I went to when thinking about this album.
yeah, Raven is so sleek and it's so cold, right? But
Yes.
there's so much heart and passion in it. And this is so warm and bouncy, but there's so much terrible shit going on.
Darkness. There's darkness in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's cool. And my favorite parts, Vic, are when it's off the rails and her dickishness takes the stage. Right? So like made out with your best friend is just an amazing moment for me. Like it's just like this is just she's just stunting, you know? It's awesome. And just the petulant tone of voice that she executes is wonderful.
Oh yeah. I mean, I liked it because I think she didn't stick to a genre. She just, whatever sound or genre was best to express the feeling or emotion is what she went with. So it seemed very like natural to me.
Yep.
No, I agree with that. I feel like she let the music dictate where it took her, and she didn't force the music to conform to where she wanted to go.
Right.
And sometimes that's when you get the best records, is when you find the melodies and they lead you somewhere, opposed to you trying to force somebody to hear the melody in a different type of way to oh, I made this dark song, but it seems like a light melody going on in the background, and then you're trying to push it that way, but it would have worked better on a different type of thing kind of way.
Exactly.
But she worked it perfect here. She said, no, this is what the melody I got, this is the production that was given to me, this is what this is now going to be. And that's what I really liked about it, and that's what made it all so cohesive to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost hear clouds, you know, like this almost sounds like clouds. Like it's fluffy and it's floating, and her voice floats. And this is an example of like the sounds are very clean, okay, but they're clean for a reason.
Yeah.
It's part of the authorship. She wants to deceive you with clean sounds.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the clean sound works because it gives you that, it sets up that atmosphere. Because like, as to go back to the blues rap album, like there's nothing wrong with having a really polished album as long as it fits, what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Like the goal. And I think the polish really helps it, because it's like shines in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In terms of like the production, it's very shiny.
And that's where like Fick mentioned the cover. After you've heard this album a few times, the cover makes a lot of sense.
For sure.
Because it's like there's a sense of majesty.
Yeah.
Like in the outfit, even in like the brightness in the tones of the the colors, right? It's and her face, if you look at her face and how like she has her game face on in that picture. Like so I just think it really fits this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. And the sequencing, as Fick talked about, is vitally important.
Extremely on this one. If the tracks flowed so perfectly into each other that if you mixed it up at all, the album doesn't have the same punch that it needs to have when they're put in that order.
Right. Yeah. I mean, of the three projects we listened to, this was definitely the most cohesive one to me.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah. And Can I Talk My Shit is definitely one of my favorite first songs of the year.
Yeah.
It establishes a universe right off the bat, you know. You know what you're doing, where you're at now, you know. Oof.
It set the tone.
Yeah. I listen to this a lot, man. There's also a lot of like, I don't know. So I really like listening to artists that love words.
Mm-hmm.
You can fucking tell when someone just loves words. Nobody has a fucking song called Lexicon. That's fucking awesome, dude. Like, she's got crazy shit going on. Carpenter's a crazy song. Like, the way she's manipulating words and phrases is really fascinating. While her voice is floating so high off the ground. Yeah, it's crazy. Fick, if you had to pick a run of songs on this album to sell people on it, what would your run be? Your favorite run on here?
Ooh. Let me pull up the track list. Give me 10 seconds.
Because I'm stuck on this. There's a few you could go with here. Oh, it's got a strong middle.
It's an extremely strong middle.
Yeah.
But I think you could go Autobahn, Nothing to Lose, and It's a Crisis.
Hell yeah.
I hit those three.
6,
But
7,
you could
8.
also do the first three. Can I Talk to My Shit, Carpenter, and You Know How? Like,
Yep.
But I feel like any three you pick in any, like, they will work together. But
right.
I would go with those two. Autobahn to It's a Crisis, or Can I Talk My Shit to You Know How?
What do you think, Kay?
I love the ending. I think it picks up in the middle, and then it has a really strong ending.
Yeah. So you would say like Do Your Worst to the interlude to Made Out with Your Best Friend.
Yes.
Anti-fuck. Yeah.
Yes.
I fuck with that.
Yeah, the Do Your Worst was my favorite song. And then like right from there it finishes really strong.
I'm gonna go the first three, Talk My Shit, Carpenter, You Know How. And I don't know if that is just biased because like there's something really special about opening up this kind of world of light, you know. There's like a real, you know, I was a kid a long time ago, so when I was a kid it was kind of cool when Wizard of Oz went from black and white to color. You know, the movie was in black and white, and then all of a sudden, bang, not just color, but all the colors, right? So this album, those opening three songs, kind of an explosion of color hits you, and you're just like, wow, I'm in this world now. And so it's always something great for me. And you're right, think about the pain of it, right? Like there's some real dark shit on here in terms of these relationships. And those come to you after you've heard it a bit because you're gonna take in the texture at first, you know? Yeah. Kay, did you have a moment where it hit you where you were like, oh, this is darker than I think it is?
I mean, I thought the beginning was like, it's funny because I thought like the first couple of songs were not, well, obviously not Can I Talk My Shit, but Carpenter, You Know How, and Lexicon, the tones were a little bit darker. And then I almost feel like, you know, even Audubon, like I feel like Made Out with Your Best Friend was kind of where things lightened up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it eased into the end.
Yeah.
But it's like the juxtaposition. I like the music that's, you know, like you said, those dark themes, but the music is so polished and you can enjoy it like even if you're not listening to the lyrics, you can still enjoy the music for what it is.
For sure.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, when you really pay attention, and you know, I have Apple Music, so they have the lyrics. You can like read the lyrics for the song. Like when you sit and you like actually read the lyrics, you can see some of the themes emerge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, and I think I wanted to see what Pitchfork gave it as a score. 7.4. Yep. It's a dewy electropop album that depicts growing up with candor and levity. So yeah, this is again, Kay, like the Pitchfork 7s are always the best ones. Telling you right now, people discount Pitchfork. Pitchfork's not bad. It's not a bad operation. Their valuation of stuff is not great, right?
I tend to ignore the score. I read the review. If the review has the passion in it, I'll listen to the album.
So the scores to me, I don't want to get yelled at by Dylan Green and for misreading this, but like the scores, like when they give something best new music, that means this is important enough for like to be the lead dog for us, right? We can put this out, wave this as a flag. We can craft a narrative around it, right? It fits a whole bunch of criteria for what we need in an alpha album, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. A lot of the ones that they give 7s to end up being my favorite albums of the year.
Interesting.
And it's because of those albums that are like in the 7s are full of these weird textures and these weird oddities and like unique things. They might not be jagged enough for what Pitchfork wanted, but they're perfect for me, you know? So I end up, the Pitchfork 7s are the way to go to me. So if you're a rapper and they give you a 7, don't worry, you're in good company. You're doing great. Like,
Absolutely.
They're not going to give you a rap album best new music unless you solved a political crisis in it.
Unless you're pretty much like Arm & Hammer, Billy Woods, or Ka.
Right. Or, you know, yeah. I mean, back in the day, Kanye, everything Kanye produced.
No, I'm saying Ka.
Yeah. No,
K.A.
Ka.
He
Yeah.
gets all of his stuff gets best new music every single time he drops it.
The thing about Ka is he floated just below best new music for years and years on Pitchfork. If you look over the years and years of his scores, he would get an 8 or an 8.1, and 8.3 is the cutoff for best new music.
True.
So he was like, they were like, we love what you do, but we can't really have you as the tent pole. You're not really
Right.
there, you know. We need Kendrick, right? And so Kendrick is more.
Because they want it to be indisputable. They want those ones that are like indisputable, almost so like they can appear like they're like, you know, crowning the king, but they're really just kind of riding the wave, sensing where it's at, and like, okay.
I will take Kendrick slander though.
These are business decisions, you know what I mean? These are business decisions, right?
Yes.
And like, yeah, it's nothing, you know, there's nothing wrong with, I was a Kendrick fan before many people were Kendrick fans, but a lot of the times Kendrick became way more popular than anyone anticipated because white people, there's a whole section of white rap fans that listen to rap, so like anthropologists trying to get the black experience, right? And so they stroke their beards and they're like, very interesting. I've learned now about Compton. I've learned new things about gang culture. Yes. And it's really awful. So, you know, those are the guys. There's a lot of those guys who rep, you know, that that acid jazz kind of album that It's All Right is on, because they're just like, this is the true essence of Black culture and thought. And I'm like, dude, you're a white guy, you shouldn't be saying any of this. Like, this is weird. But they have to look into all that. They have to have all that. They have to have all that. They have to have something that is bulletproof, right? That can appeal to every demographic.
Mhm.
And Khan is a raspy old firefighter, dude. Like, that's not going to be for everybody.
Mm.
So he floated on the outside until, yes, he became undeniable, right? The
Right.
progress became undeniable. So he put pressure on it. But yeah, this is a real gem of an album, and it's really good in a lot of different spaces and a lot of different moods. You know what I'm saying? Like, the airplane's coming off the ground and you're listening to this album, it's a good deal. That's
Yeah.
a good deal. It has a lot of utility.
Absolutely.
And there's a
Sounds
lot of
good in the car too.
Go ahead.
As I said, sounds good in the car too.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I was gonna say. It's a great car ride album.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
yeah.
Great car ride album.
And I've put this on a lot in the car because it's not necessarily crazy, salacious. It's not like she's like screaming the C word at my kid, I can rock this shit. And it's dope. Sounds great in the car. Big bass sounds, serious dance music shit. But R&B at times, alternative at times, like, just really multifaceted. I really enjoyed it.
Feeds a bunch of appetites.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
There's a bunch of itches.
yeah. That's why I was excited to bring it here and sneak it into the mix. So we had something that I felt was a guaranteed positive, and just because of how much Kay loves Raven, I just wanted you to make sure you heard this.
Yeah.
Because this is like something you need to hear if you've heard Raven.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll do that. Anything else we should say about these 3 albums, or we can go to the recommendation corner?
I'm good.
All right. Recommendation corner. The first one is a heavyweight. I'm not fucking with you here. One of the things I used to missed was I used to be able to just play my wife the weirdest shit and just really enjoy seeing her reactions to shit, having a kid complicates that, certainly, and we're both busier than we've ever been. But there's an album. I gotta share my screen so you can see the cover of this fucking thing, dude.
Oh gosh. Uh-oh.
It's so
great.
fire. How do I share on this bitch? Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful album. I don't know that I'm seeing share as an option. Oh, there it is. It's giant and green, and I'm just dumb. Let's bang. See this cover?
Oh.
It's a fire ass cover.
Oh wow.
The King, Anjamile, Anjimile. And it has one of the most important, unbelievable first songs of the year. The title track. And it is, man. Yeah, what is it? 10 songs, nothing under 2.5 minutes, really. All statements, giant sized statements. Animal is one of the best songs about racism that's come out this year. It's the whole thing about it that's really crazy. It's a folk album. It was in the folk section, right? Which I'm always digging through. But that first song and a bunch of the songs within it have kind of classical like elements and textures. Also, like choral singing. style shit
Mm.
with like harmonies and crazy shit going on. But a serious voice and authorship and like, you know, a real story being told. Personal family shit, you know, life shit. The King on Jamile is something fucking else. And it's beautiful. It'll be on my list. My list is not gonna be like your list. Just book it now. Yeah. So that is definitely the first recommendation. What else do I have here? Man, there's some shit I haven't even gotten to yet. But I guess my second recommendation, I will go with that new Young Jeezy. Now he's not young anymore. He's just Jeezy.
Mm.
But it's called I Might Forgive, But I Don't Forget.
Oof.
It's awesome. Oh man. But it's 29 songs, Kay.
29 songs.
It's incredible. It's like a lifetime to listen to that album.
It's like a double album, though. I think it's supposed to be
Crazy as fuck. It
That's
really
damn near. I mean, that's more than a double. That's like a 2.5 album.
It might be a triple album. It's fucking
Yeah.
but good for it. It's really good. It's really good, and there's a lot of like just him going at people who have screwed him over. Vengeful Jeezy is always fascinating. Yeah. My third, I'm gonna go with an album that I have not heard yet. That comes out in April of next year. It's Bring Us the Head of Francisco False. Keshi is releasing his last solo album in 2 parts. And this is the first part. The album cover's intense. The single is by Factor Chandelier. This one's going to be 10 songs. Yeah, the last of the Keshi solo projects. And he's in a great place right now, so I'm really excited to hear where that goes.
the record he had this year was really good.
Oh yeah.
Co-Defendants.
Yeah, Co-Defendants is dope. It's dope.
There's a song on there, the one with DOC. That
DOC
song has stayed
crazy.
in rotation.
Yeah, you got to see the video. Have you seen the video for all that
Oh
shit?
hell yeah!
All the
yeah.
Co-Defendant videos are bananas. They're just so good.
I don't remember why I even listened to the album. I think I saw you talk about it, or you said something on Twitter about it, and I was like, all right, fuck it. Dano mentions it. I'll check it out. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? But I was loving it every second of that album.
Yeah, my wife, I played that. My wife was like, oh shit, 90s vibes on this. Like, this is very 90s, punk kind of feel to a lot of the songs.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. I can't give too much away, but so Kay knows this. I've been sending all these weird little interludes and stuff to people that I like, people that I care about. And there's an upcoming Sankofa album where I am the first voice on the album. Holy shit. I was fucking floored. I was like, dude, really? Me? It's fucking cool. It's really cool.
You want to talk about prolific artists? It's one of the first people that come to mind. Yeah. Quality project after quality project after quality project. You know what you're getting when you're going in, and he will deliver it every single time.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
You get the understanding that he's like somebody who would have been a prolific artist if he could have been back then, right? He didn't have the means, which is why he only released so much. But now that he does, it's actually the means that suits him the best. which is totally a different situation.
But I want to he's just one of the dopest dudes.
Oh God, yeah.
Just big ups Kofa, man. I'm rocking. I can't wait to go to New York. I'm rocking my Kofa beanie. I literally bought it to wear in New York. I don't need a beanie. I live in South Florida. There's no reason for me to own one.
One of the things we talked about, the reason why I think what started that, I think I did a written interview with him where I sent him like 5 questions. And one of them was about parenthood. And it was my question was pretty crazy. It was like, parenthood is about feeling disappointed, like you didn't do enough. Like, how do you balance your artistic life with that? And his answer was gutting. It was beautiful, and it was gutting. It was like, this is somebody who understands what I'm talking about, you know? Yeah, it was really interesting. So yeah, he's a really genuine person. And I think as I probably shouldn't say this because I'm probably not on his level, but as writers, we have a lot of common sensibilities, you know? So I fuck with it.
So listen, Dan, if I feel like if you ever really put your head to it, you would write a fire ass 16 bars. I know you can. The amount of pop culture bullshit that rivals me, and you would be able to just, with your knowledge and your acumen and everything that you know about it, you would put together a fire ass 16. I don't want you to sell yourself short there.
No, I mean my thing is like, from a poetry perspective, I always felt like rhyming was a little bit silly. I always felt like, oh, I got to search for a rhyming word. Fuck off. Like, so I've always had a weird disconnect in my head about that. I admire people that can and do, right? But the rhyming isn't really what I'm in hip hop for.
Yeah, you don't have to rhyme to be a rapper nowadays.
I mean, you ever listen to Prodigy from Mobb Deep?
Fair.
When he rhymed, you were like, oh, like you got hype when he rhymed, but he never did.
No,
and it still was hard as fuck.
Yeah, hard as fuck. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, that's thank you for that confidence. Fick, what are you recommending? Give your recommendations for the people.
Just an album that I really like that I think they should hear.
Yeah, hit them. What do you want them to hear? What are you bumping? What do you want them to bump?
I think everybody needs to bump "The Fish That Saved Portland" by Milk and Televangel. I think it's one of those albums that everyone needs to hear. Milk is just on another level than he was on last year's album. Televangel stepped up the beat so hard on this one. The guests on it all kill. I mean, it's a Fatboy Sharif feature with Milk on a Televangel beat. Like, what more do you need to know? They got a Mike Skinner reference on a fucking song title. Like, you really, like, this album provides. He interpolates Baby fucking Bash. All right?
I love that. That's my favorite.
I will not.
Yeah.
And Milk sings so horribly. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things when rappers can't sing and they sing.
Yeah.
I there's not enough good things I can say about that.
No,
I could talk about that for like 2 more hours.
My son had like a soccer tournament last weekend. 3 games, like each an hour apart or some shit. It was all fucking day. And I was over on the sidelines during the game, and I got my Bluetooth in, and I'm like banging my head and doing rap hand motions. And the fucking parents are like, "What are you listening to?" They tap me on the shoulder and shit. And I'm like, "Milk and Televangel, man. The Fish That Saved Portland." And I was like, it just, over the course of the year, it became, whether it was, with the XL jacket project that he has from a while ago. Windbreaker. Whether it was Windbreaker, whether it was, the first Televangel album or this one, I was always like listening to Milk during the soccer tournaments. And just banging that shit on the sidelines. It just became a tradition, kind of. So, and it's because Milk is one of those ready to go MCs. Like, Milk he's good for any mood, really.
And people like want to cast him off, and he mentioned in Rohan's interview that he did with him that he's that like he could go around Portland, like he's known in Portland, like he grew up in the streets of Portland, like, and he's not like, so he's been doing this, and like he has the respect and all of that, and I just think more people need to take notice, because I think he's just beyond special.
Yeah, and fucking hilarious.
It's funny.
Anything else you want to add to that, or are you good on that one?
That, and you mentioned it earlier, man. Sleeping Dogs. I think everyone needs to listen to that. Faking My Own Death just to get some rest. You will never hear another record like that this year.
Yeah.
I just think that's another record that I was blown away as soon as I heard it, and that one has stayed in rotation. And that dropped in March. And that's a tough thing to do. It's been steady rotation for 8-9 months, constant. Those would probably be the two projects I recommend. Those are my two most recent vinyl purchases also. So
yeah. Yeah, good folks that take their verses very fucking serious. Yeah, I think that that Jesse the Tree verse on Fuzzy Orange Headband is maybe the best one he's ever written. It's really fucking nuts.
I think it's on I never remember the song, but it's the one where he's like he's like, "This ain't a hobby, dog. I do it for cathartic purposes. It just so happens every verse is burned as speaker surfaces." That I never remember the song name, Joe Cool or something else. But I think that was when I was just like, holy shit.
Yep.
Just that, and any Estee Knack project that dropped this year, all of them. Dang. Those are my recommendations.
Those are the recommendations. That makes sense. Kay, what are you recommending to the people?
Oh no, I mean no recommendations this week.
We get in trouble sometimes. Kay recommends methamphetamines, and I'm like, no, stop. He's living a different lifestyle. But
I get it, yo. I don't judge.
I appreciate it. The respect it. So yeah, this has been awesome. Glad to have you here, Fick. And
thank you for having me. It's awesome chopping it up.
A place that kicks it with all the sides of the process, and what you do is really valuable because you give people a straightforward understanding of what's good with this music. So that's important, you know. And
that's how I am as a person, even to people in my life. I'm so upfront. My parents always told me to speak the fucking truth. And you don't have to lie about it and make up more lies to get around. So I just, when I listen to something, I say how I feel about it. Good, bad, indifferent. I'll let it be known. And sometimes I'll write a review and I'll be like, yo, this shit's fucking hard. Because that's how I feel.
Right. That makes sense, man. Yeah. Say how you feel and stop posturing.
What will tomorrow bring? What will tomorrow